time that we start. So welcome, everybody. My name is Carol Ann McCormick, and this
I'm Helen Cahill.
Helen Cahill Cobb.
Yeah. I'm the sales counselor here. I work with a lot of the independent living, incoming residents. So does Carol Ann.
We also help with assisted living on some occasions as well.
Absolutely.
And Helen's been at Knollwood for a long time, so she knows all about
getting on the wait list.
Yep.
What
Or
we're talking about today.
coming to live here.
Yep. All kinds of things.
So we hope, actually, we kind of like, before we get into our first slide, we just kind of want to ask people that we want you to be able to ask questions or comment. And at the bottom of your screen, if you kind of hover your cursor, you'll see something that says Q&A and something else that says chat. And for either of those, you can key in a comment or a question, and either we'll see it or Elise, who's here with us in the room, will see it and share with us what your question or comment is. But I would like to know, is there anybody listening today that hasn't been to Knollwood before or hasn't seen our introduction to Knollwood webinar?
Yeah.
Anybody out there who fits that bill? Maybe not. We're going to go to the first slide while we're waiting for anyone to key in their answer. And this is a little bit of background about Knollwood.
We always like to start with this slide, just a brief overview in case there's some new people joining us, which we get often. Knollwood is a beautiful, smaller community. We are right across the street from Rock Creek Park. We sit on 16 acres in Northwest DC, almost Maryland. But we're kind of like this hidden gem in a well-established neighborhood with tons of trees. So it's just a really, really beautiful wooded setting. We are a life plan community, so that means we have at least independent living and skilled nursing. We're also lucky enough to have assisted living. Right in between those.
All right, I'm going to give you.
We're back. Okay, guys.
That was not good, but we will. So we are back.
We are back. Please bear with us. I think we can just give another minute in case people are hopping back on.
They shouldn't have
right?
gotten. Yeah, no one else should have gotten
booted.
disconnected.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
So as Helen was saying, in our largest neighborhood at Knollwood is independent living.
Yep.
So 2/3 of the people who live at Knollwood are, able, capable, some still working.
Yeah.
And in charge of their own life, like all of you.
Yep.
And actually, when you look at independent living, like Helen mentioned, different age groups, there are actually 2 generations of people that live in independent living.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat. There are people who've lived here for a great number of years. And then there are people that are younger that only arrived at Knollwood last week, let's say, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And if somebody does want to know more about the generalities of Knollwood, we're apologize, but it's not part of today's webinar, but we're happy to, you can call Helen or I, or
absolutely,
you can come in and meet with Helen or I. That does require an appointment because we still are conscious of COVID.
Absolutely.
And being precautionary. Or we can also do Zoom tours that are personal with just you.
Yes, it's not something that's pre-recorded. It's not a canned tour. We are going to spend time talking to you, getting to know what is important to you, what size apartment homes might meet your needs, and that's what we're going to show you.
So today we're going to move along and talk a little bit more about Knollwood. So this too is a little bit of a refresher. But Knollwood is a life plan community. And Helen mentioned that to have that, you have to have at least independent living and skilled nursing. Knollwood has other levels and care in between that, including short-term rehab, which is great for things like hips and knees and gallstone
All kinds of things.
procedures where
Yeah.
you might need physical therapy to get back in the swing. Knollwood is a type C community, and that means it's fee for service. So you have all of your what ifs of the future kind of set up for you. So if you ever needed assisted living or skilled nursing, they're here for you, which is really the potential of a life plan community. Some life plan communities have different financial models, and most of the time it's just based on the era in which that community was originally founded. Knollwood is a type C, which means that if you need health care, you'll pay for it at the time that you need it.
Yep.
Where some of the other plans have variations on that.
Mhm.
Okay.
What is this waiting list business?
Mhm.
So if you have chatted with either of us or seen some of our other, whether it's in person or our online webinars like we're doing today, you will definitely heard us talk about the waiting list. And what we're digging into today is really how do you get on it and why it's important to get on it. We have people who are forward thinkers and planners. There's a couple people who are on our waiting list now who want to come in 20 years because they just retired from a certain job and they're starting kind of their second career. So it always is a good idea to think about what you can do to set yourself up for success and the best opportunities here at Knollwood.
Yeah, some of, like Helen's mentioning, some of the people are 46, 47. They couldn't live here if they wanted to. They have to wait until they're into their 60s, but they're forward thinking and they're planning.
Yeah.
And it helps them to secure their spot. And it's really pretty much close to too late to join the waiting list when you want to come, right? It's something you want to do in advance. And we'll talk more about that.
Yep.
So you can join at any age, you just
Yeah.
can't live here at any age. You do still have to be in good shape. And when we say that, we're talking about physically as well as cognitively. So sometimes people say, well, I want to go to Knollwood, but I'm going to go when I need it.
Those words hurt me.
Yeah,
Don't
'cause-
say that.
Yeah, because they mean that then we know we're going to let you down.
Yeah.
That's why Helen says those words hurt me. Because if you have needs, unless you need someone to clean the gutters, or you need
Right.
someone to clean house, or you
Right.
need someone to cook for you occasionally, needs are a signal that you really need assisted living or maybe even long-term care.
Yeah.
So in addition to the age and your health, there's a litmus test on your finances. When you come to live at Knollwood, we are committed that even should you outlive your funds, Knollwood will be here for you. However, we want to make sure that people who are moving in do not have a high likelihood of outliving their money. So we look at people's age, we look at and we look at their finances. And with their finances, we look at where might they be 10 years from now financially, if they were living here in independent living, or where might they be financially if they were living here in independent living and maybe needed some assisted living or some skilled nursing during that 20-year time frame. And we look at it's the likelihood of somebody being able to cover their cost of independent living at the time of their review. And the review time is done when you join the waiting list. But if you're on the waiting list for more than a year, we may be updating your
Yes.
review at the time that you actually pick out an apartment home.
Yep. Because if you're one of those forward thinkers who's planning 20 years out,
Mhm.
your financial situation has probably changed
Yes.
by the time we're looking at apartments and
Yeah.
you're getting ready to move in.
You might be accessing a retirement account,
Mhm.
you might have a pension,
Yeah.
your house might be paid off for by then,
Mhm.
different things like that. I think we did have a question, Elise. What
It
was it that
is
someone popped
pertaining
up?
to the emails, why they say it comes from BE.
Mhm. Yeah. So Somebody is asking a question right now that's gonna be, what was that email, Elise? Or that message? We have two
Yeah.
messages that we're gonna answer now for you. One of them is what to do. Should you come in when you're independent, or can someone come in when they're at the level of assisted living?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we get that a lot.
Yeah, and it's, if you want to live here, the best advice that we can give, that's the honest truth, is that you should come when you're independent, because our assisted living at Knollwood is very small.
Yeah.
And assisted living is, again, you're going to have trouble, you're going to have needs. And what if we do not have an opening in assisted living at a time that coincides with your life circumstances?
Yeah.
The odds are small that we're going to have an assisted living opening when you need it, if you don't already live here. For people who live here, we know it's coming down the pike.
Yeah.
With those people. That's why they chose to live here. So their transitions to assisted living are what is worked. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's a space and a resident doesn't need it, then we would come to people on a waiting list, but it's not likely.
Yeah. As Caroline said, it can be really hard to make that timing work because we just don't know. We have independent living residents who may need it, and maybe you need it urgently, but they have first priority because they already live here. We don't want people to think of Knollwood as a place to go when you need help. We want
Because
people
it's
to come
not,
here
yeah.
when they,
Yeah.
to take some of the burden off of themselves with everything that comes with owning a home, but enjoy an active lifestyle. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. You can come here when it's a pain to, or you wish you had other things to do other than maintain the house, household responsibilities, different errands and chores.
Yeah,
That's the time to come.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
So now we have a little bit about the application process itself.
Yeah,
You wanna talk
so
about this, Helen?
the application is a document that usually we send out in our marketing packet, or maybe we give one to you in person, but it's 4 pages, 2 front and back. And it's, pretty straightforward. It's going to ask some basic information. We do have a financial section that we ask you to fill out. It's broken down into 2 parts, assets and liabilities. We don't need your bank statement. We don't need you to go on to, different websites to print things off, to tell us what money you have in stocks or what your retirement is. We'll take you at your word. And at that point in time, we will evaluate it. And if we need an update in the future, we'll deal with that then. There is also a semi-informal medical piece on the very
Well, that's
last
not
page.
part of this though. Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so there is a health section. It's a preliminary medical report. You don't need a doctor to fill that out. You just fill that out yourself. It's a little bit of history just so we kind of know what's going on.
Like you
of course, it's popping back.
So we're back on,
Indeed.
and we are apologetic. This has not happened with us before, so
No,
we
this
really
is-
apologize. Somebody, a question did come in. So let's have Helen finish this slide, and then we'll take this question that just came in.
So really quick, regarding the financial section, as Carol Ann sort of mentioned earlier, we do run it through an actuarial table. And really that's to see, will this person need financial assistance in the future? Can they, if they're here for 10 years, can they cover that stay? Can they afford the apartment size interest they're saying they're interested in? We don't want to set someone up for failure. So if you're saying, hey, I want the largest apartment and you really can only afford a 1 bed plus den, we're not going to approve you for the biggest apartment because we want you to be able to enjoy your time here and not be stressing.
And again, too, when your finances are reviewed, if something does happen, it doesn't matter if you were only here a year. If we've reviewed your finances and said, you are eligible to live at Knollwood, you're in your apartment and something happens. Now you can't give your money away.
No.
It won't be for that. But if something happens, let's just say there is a big medical crisis for you personally, and all of a sudden, your financial situation has become dire, then Knollwood will help you out.
Yeah.
So we know you'll still have probably maybe a social security or a pension, but you might need help above and beyond that so that you can stay at Knollwood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then during the application process, there's kind of two things. Not everybody has to join the waiting list.
No.
But if somebody walked in the door today and they wanted a 1 bedroom, the 1 bedroom that we have available, if they happen to like it and it was the right size of 1 bedroom, because there are numerous 1 bedroom sizes, and someone said, oh, I'll take that, that could happen. I will say though, if somebody wants a large 1 bedroom, a 1 bedroom with den, a 2 bedroom,
Yeah.
a 2 bedroom with den, that really is a waiting list only opportunity. So somebody does not necessarily have to join the waiting list, but most people do. And
Yeah.
you're on the waiting list, then you know that you will have an opportunity later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody asked about what is the average age of residents when they come to live here. Most people who are when they're coming to live here are still in their 70s. We do have some people coming in their 60s.
Mhm.
The average age of everybody living here, whether they have been here a long time or just came within the last couple of years, is 81.
Yeah.
So while there are people higher of age, usually at move-in, someone's going to be in their 70s. But it could can't be below 62 unless there's, a special circumstance.
Yes. Yep.
So that was a great question.
Absolutely.
And Alicia says we have another question.
If you're on a waiting list, but not ready to come when something opens up, for example, the person wanting to come in 5 years, what then? Do you go to the end of the line?
Okay, so we've got a great question. Essentially, short version, if you're on the waiting list and you're not ready, maybe you are 5 years out, what do you do when you get the call? So here's what we recommend. Even if you're not ready yet, please come in, at least look at the apartment home. As Carol Ann has mentioned here and many other times, we have so many different varieties Okay. Ooh, whoopsie.
Okay.
Hopefully, and get rid of that.
So we have switched to a different Wi-Fi source.
Yes,
So that should not happen again, everybody.
you
But-
won't lose this again.
Yes.
We're
But-
so sorry.
But as Helen was saying, come in and look.
Yeah.
We're not gonna hold up calling the next person.
No, for sure.
This is just to give you exposure.
Yeah.
For those of you who have seen our pricing list, our list of apartments is very long. And for example, a 1-bedroom in Den has several styles, but one of them is a B6 and one of them is a C5 or a
Yep.
C3. But when you've seen one B6, we could show you another B6 and it could be totally different.
Yeah.
If you see a C5 or a C6 and we call you back for another C5 or 6, it can be laid out very differently. So come and look, even if the timing doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity cost though. If you pass on an apartment, and your health changes, I mean, you can become ineligible, but
Yeah.
that's on you. That's not,
Yeah.
that's not on us. We'll feel bad, but you don't want to wait until your health is changing, because at that point, then it might be too late for you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that does happen sometimes. So, with, I think, coming into and viewing apartment homes, even if you're not ready, it helps spark your imagination about what my life at Knollwood might look like. And I know also I've had people who have totally ruled out a particular apartment. They're like, I need something bigger or smaller. And then I'm talking to them and I'm like, well, let's look at this. What do you think? And it's actually been a better fit for their needs.
Mhm.
So, we love to see you guys in person. We love to engage with you, and it's good to come in and, get more sense of the culture, see more variety. It's great.
I guess it's still not clear. You call, but we're still not ready. What happens?
Oh, okay. No problem.
You could say that. You
If
don't
you-
get bumped.
Yep, you don't get bumped. If you're not ready, there's no penalty. Just say, no, thank you. And we will just go to the next person on the list. We have our waiting list kind of divided up by apartment interest type. We're not going to call someone who only wants a 1-bedroom for our largest 2-bedroom. That would be silly. So we have it first divided up that way and then divided up by date that you
When
got
you
on the
join
waiting
the
list. So whoever is at the top of the list, they've been there the longest, that's where we're starting. And that's why some of those future planners are on now. Maybe they really want a really big apartment and they know we only have so many. They want to be at the top of the list when they think, okay, in 20 years, I'll be ready and I'll get first dibs at that really big 2-bedroom plus den.
Yeah. So it's, the only thing that could go wrong is your health goes south. So,
Yes.
you have to be conscious of that. And, you may say, no, the timing isn't right. I'm going to Arkansas to a wedding that has been postponed twice because of COVID.
Yeah.
But then the next call you get could be in 3 years, or it could be in 3 months, just
Yeah.
depending on when there's another opening.
Several questions from Mary Beth Tarp. Average wait list for 2-bedroom and den.
There is no really average 2-bedroom and den. Again, the larger the apartment, the longer the wait.
Yeah.
So you probably want to get on the waiting list now. We had somebody who was relatively new on the waiting list get a really great apartment recently. And what happens is when you're on the waiting list, even if you're at the top, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that apartment. Because what if we call you and you say, well, I am going to Arkansas for 3 months for a wedding
Yeah.
and I am not coming back. I don't have time. Well, it's not going to
We
wait.
can't
for
wait
you.
for you.
So we call the next person. So we had someone who was very fortunate, was like the 5th or 6th person, who actually got a fantastic apartment.
Yeah.
Someone hemmed and hawed. They actually came back a couple months later and said, we would like to look at that apartment now.
Sorry.
And it was sold. Gone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the waiting list means you get a call.
Yes. A call and an opportunity. We're going to say, hey, this is open, or we know this is coming available. Do you want to come in and see it? And then
Or we could Zoom it. If
or
you
we can
can't,
Zoom
maybe
it.
you're far away.
And once we engage in that appointment,
Mhm.
then we're gonna give you a short window to say yes or no on the apartment.
Yeah.
And then go
And
from
it is
there.
a short window, because just like if you're buying a house, let's say you went into a house and you thought, oh, this is a really good, cool house. Let's tell them we're interested and then see if it's still around next week. Right? So no one's
Not
gonna,
in this market.
well, not in any market really, right?
No,
But
for
no one's,
sure.
so
Yeah, it's just not realistic. And as Carolyn said, we've had people who, for whatever reason, they can't come in, and we've had some other newer people who really had some awesome opportunities to move in some beautiful apartments.
Yep. So it's,
So-
it's timing too.
Yeah.
And somebody did ask if the application deposit is refundable if you decide not to come. So whatever, it depends on your reason for not coming to Knollwood. If your health declined and you were no longer capable of independent living from our standpoint, where we would turn you down for independent living, we would give that back. If you passed away, it would go to your estate. If you decided not to come to Knollwood for whatever reason, you could just say, I'm gonna gonna stay in this house and I'm going to, live on just one floor of my house, whatever, or I'm gonna move in with my daughter. I have no idea. For whatever other reason, we would keep the $1,500 deposit.
Yeah.
It's just if you're pass away or your health changes,
Yes.
well, of course, we give it back. Other reasons we don't. If you do come here, it goes toward your apartment home here.
Yep. So, it's a two-step process initially. And as we move on to the next slide, I'm sure we'll dig into the second payment. But as Carolyn mentioned, the 1,500 application fee, most of the time, like if you're like, hey, I'm going to Florida, bye.
Right.
Well, that's gonna, stay with us. But the $3,500 waitlist deposit.
We have to move forward.
Yes.
We're gonna move forward because it's a two-step process, but it's really only one step for the waiting list and one
Yes.
step if you're taking an apartment instead of going on the waiting list.
Yep.
So people who join the waiting list would pay the application deposit and a waiting list combined, it's 5,000.
Yep.
1,500 is only refundable if you pass away or if your health has declined and we turn you down.
Yep.
Now, some people do not join the waiting list, but because they've liked that one bedroom that we have open, they would pay the 1,500 plus a larger chunk toward the apartment entry fee.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on which route you go, but waiting list people are actually paying a $5,000. It can be one check, but we look at it as $1,500 is the application fee. No matter which route you take, the rest of the money is either your waiting list deposit or is your reserving an apartment home deposit. All the monies go toward your entrance fee though, when you come here to live.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so talk about preferences. How many preferences can someone have?
You can be, well, if you can financially afford it, you can be as loosey-goosey or as particular as you like. We have one person on the waiting list who is only amenable to one size, and it has to have a very particular view, and therefore there are only 2 apartments in our entire building that will meet her needs. So she's got to wait a while, but lucky for her, she's like 68 or something, so she's got a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's still unlikely that she's
yes.
going to get what she wants because she's too restricted.
Yeah. But if you are open to a 2-bedroom and a 2-bedroom plus den,
or a 1-bedroom with den,
it's good for us to know. Put that on your application, right? When you're getting on the waiting list, so we know. And really what that means is there's just going to be more calls and more opportunities for you. No, we're not going to be harassing you and bothering you all the time, but it just means more opportunity, which I think is a good thing. If you're flexible, I could do a 1-bedroom plus den or a smaller 2-bedroom, or maybe even a medium-sized 2-bedroom. Then
there are a lot of different sizes of 2 bedrooms and a lot of different sizes of 1-bedroom with dens.
Yes.
And different sizes of 2-bedroom with dens. So we're kind of talking in categories, but when you've seen the apartment listing, you may end up with 7 or 8 different styles that you think might suit you.
Yep.
And that's okay. If you have just one style that you think may suit you, come in, well, we'll probably call you to look at other styles just to see. But you may have a longer wait time if you're really tied to only being on the second floor with an apartment that only faces west.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. And your position on the waiting list depends on when you join the list.
Yep.
Because somebody else who likes the same exact preferences as you do, but they joined sooner, we would call them ahead of calling you.
Yep.
But someone with the same preferences as you who joined later is not going to get a call till you do.
Mhm.
And you can change your preferences when you're on the waiting list.
Yeah.
You could add or subtract.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Maybe you have been working on right sizing and you're like, I don't need a 2-bedroom. I'm getting rid of half this junk, and you can go for something smaller. You know, you never know. And we're always amenable to making those changes. It's no problem.
Right now, working with somebody who lives in a condo that is just under 1,400 square feet and wants to stay in that same size range. Well, that makes sense because she has everything as she likes it there, and so kind of wants to bring the same thing. So sticking to a similar size is important for her.
Makes sense. Keep it easy.
And your wait time, again, it just varies by size. 1-bedroom apartments tend to have a shorter wait.
Yeah.
1-bedroom with dens, although there's a variety of those. Same with 2 bedrooms, a variety, and 2 bedrooms with a den, or even there's even some 3 bedrooms here. You know, in general, the larger the apartment, the longer the wait. There just seem to be more demand. So it's never too soon to join.
No, absolutely not.
You have another question?
Yes, so that's kind of related. So if they did pay for the application 1,500, is it refundable if they decide to go to another?
Well, we already did answer that. No matter, so the question was, is your $1,500 refundable if you don't come here? Only if you have passed away or we turn you down for your health. We don't care what other reason that there is. You know, it's not going to be refunded. It will go toward your entrance fee if you do come. But if you change your mind about coming here for any reason, no, it does keep the application fee. But if we turn you away because your health has changed, or who knows, maybe your finances have changed, it doesn't, that could happen. It doesn't usually. But, yeah, or if you wait too long and you've passed away, then we would refund it.
More general question, maybe you want to take it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is the refundability. Again, I think we answered that question,
Yeah.
but just to reinforce, they do go toward your entry fee when you come here to live.
Okay.
So we're going
as
to go
we
on
move
to our
on,
next one. We can talk a little bit
Yeah,
about
so
this.
some of these things are points we've mentioned earlier, right? By joining the waiting list, you are reserving your spot here at Knollwood, right? So that gives you a peace of mind that once you move in here, you've got a little bit of a safety net, you know, and you have a built-in community, which is fantastic. Priority for opportunities. As we're talking about, what we see today is a lot of people like 2 bedrooms, you know, and maybe part of that is COVID. They've got their office space and they've got, you know, their living space. Well, if you can only live in a 2-bedroom, we're going to tell you get on the waiting list because you're not the only one. And we only have a certain number. And so the sooner you get on and the more flexible you are, then the more opportunities you get, the more calls we can say, hey, this is coming down the pipeline. You told me it's the size you're looking for, come check it out. Or it's not quite what you said you wanted, but it's really close, or I think you might like it. It's just better to get on it sooner, plain and simple. Of course, if you're on our waiting list, you get kind of special treatment, get, you know, maybe something on the holidays, get to come in and visit with us. We love to do different events. And it also.
Sure, we did some special curbside events
We
for
did.
the waiting list members too.
Yep. And what is really good is when people take that time to focus on right sizing. And hopefully joining the waiting list, especially if you're one of those planners, will kind of motivate you to get that ball rolling.
And if you haven't been here before, really, come in and talk to Helen or I, because you probably don't want to join the waiting list, nor would we recommend it, if you haven't had any time with either of us before.
Come in here and visit with us.
Yeah, is there anyone on the webinar right now that has never been to Knollwood before? Just kind of key in a little yes or no for us. And we'll take it from there. But Helen also mentioned, we only have a certain number of 2 bedrooms. We have a lot, but Knollwood is a community of only 160 apartments.
Yeah.
And so while we have a lot of 2 bedrooms, when you only have 160 total apartments, it's a finite community, and people come here and they live here for 15, 20 years.
Yes. Long
So it's not that there are apartments that are coming open on a daily basis here. So people come here and they, come here to live out their life, and they're here for a long time. And there's a lot of couples that live here too.
Yep.
So that sometimes impacts how often an apartment would come open. There's 2 people in it versus 1, even if a health change may, means that one of them is now going to have long-term nursing care and not remain in the apartment anymore. Well, the partner or the spouse is still in the apartment, so it doesn't necessarily make an apartment available.
Yeah.
And being on the waiting list too, there is a small opportunity for people who are on the waiting list that they might be able to have rehab here. Again, our rehab is really it's a small rehab center. We have a great reputation. But it's really intended for people who already live here. But if you're having a surgery or something, you can ask at the hospital that if you need rehab to have them call, call Helen or I ideally.
Yeah.
And if we have a spot that a resident doesn't have a need for, then somebody on our waiting list, we're going to have precedence to them over just some,
stranger. From the
John
hospital.
Doe, who a hospital calls us about. We want to give a waiting list member the opportunity to have rehab here.
Absolutely. And if you have a surgery planned, let us know.
You can meet some of the care team in advance.
Yes, we've done that before, and even just so it's on our radar, so we can just continue to be in touch with the appropriate parties and see if we will have something open for you. And I know people have had such a great experience with our rehab that they've actually decided to come here and live afterwards in independent living.
Sooner rather than later.
Yep.
It's a positive experience.
It is, absolutely.
We have one attendee who's not here.
We have
She attended webinars.
Okay.
So we do have one attendee who's never been here, but come on webinars. Well, if you live far away, like in Alaska, we've had a few Alaska people lately. We can be happy to do a Zoom tour for you and talk one-on-one with whatever you want to talk about. And then we also do give in-person tours.
Absolutely.
We take a lot of COVID precaution, and everything in person is strictly by pre-planned appointment. So you'd call us up and we'd arrange something for a future date. We know what time you were coming and we'd be expecting you as well. And also if you want to, send us by email or through our website, your name, we can send you some of Knollwood's information. If somebody does not have a 2021 listing of Knollwood apartment homes, let us know and we can send that off to update you. You can also send us an email through our website if you want, or just call us. Yeah, but we're happy to do that.
Yeah.
We're trying to make our apartment listing a little more thorough than it was in the past. So you may see some things on it that are like, oh, I didn't know you had that or that or that.
Yeah. A lot more descriptions to include more of the varieties that we see between different sizes and also within the same size, which I think is helpful. Okay. And we're on. Okay. Best time to join the waiting list.
Well, before you're
Yesterday.
ready. Yeah, yesterday, that's good. Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, actually, yesterday is good. But when you have needs, it's too late.
Yeah.
When you're ready to come, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
And by ready, I mean, a lot of people think, oh, my house isn't ready to sell, or, I haven't met with a realtor, or even my house isn't sold. Well, it's really a challenge. We've had a couple people call us and say, my house is sold. And that's a real challenge. So we really encourage you to be on the waiting list before you list your house, and let us kind of guide you on, I mean, and the market's really good right now.
Yeah.
So I know people really want to sell now. Talked to a realtor, actually a couple different ones, and one person got 17 offers. It's not uncommon for people right now to be getting 100,000 over asking price.
Yeah.
It's really a bizarre market right now. There are not enough sellers and there are a lot of buyers.
Yep.
And that's not just even in the immediate DC area.
Nope, nationwide.
Yeah, most metropolitan or even quasi semi-metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Even some rural areas are.
Even out in
doing well.
Aldi, they're getting multiple offers. Far away. It's a crazy market.
Yeah.
But please don't wait to call us until your house is sold, because it's slim pickings.
If any.
Yes.
Unless you want.
Right.
So if you're possibly considering Knollwood, you don't have to be 100% certain, but you're like, it looks like yes, then that's really the time.
Absolutely.
So.
If you want us to be an option for your future, if you want to not have to just take that small 1-bedroom or maybe efficiency that's available, because
you're a couple, you're not gonna fit.
We recommend getting on the waiting list, and just when you're on the waiting list, continuing to communicate with us, because the more we know about what's going on with you, the better we can do our job and help you get in here in a smooth way. We don't like it when it's crazy and hectic, because we want it to be, it's going to be stressful anyways, but we want you to come into Knollwood and be like, oh, what a relief, I'm finally here, not hair on fire, Okay, so
what next? Well, we hope that someone will come in for a tour who hasn't been
Please.
here before. Maybe you've been here before and would like another look around.
Yeah.
Maybe you've seen a couple of apartments, but maybe want to see a couple different other styles. We often have an apartment that someone is going to be moving into in a couple weeks. So it's done, it's ready, but we can still show it. And that's a great time to see a style maybe that you haven't seen before. Right now, if somebody wanted to see a 2-bedroom today, we would actually have to ask a resident to show theirs. And because of COVID, some people are comfortable with that and some are not. Both the visitor,
Yes.
as well as
The
the person who
resident.
lives here.
Yeah.
And some people don't like to show their apartment homes no matter what, and that's their prerogative. So we would not even call that type of person. But there are times, like just last week, we had a couple of different 2-bedrooms that we were still showing, or the week before last, but they were both moved into last week. So they're no longer an option for you to see once they're final cleaned and being moved into. But we're not high pressure people when you come in for a tour.
No, not at all.
We've never kept a prisoner.
No. And again, we want to get to know you. We want to get to know what you're looking for, what's important to you, and just help guide you. The more I meet with people, the better sense I get of, what kind of apartment may be right. And I've worked here for so many years, so I can kind of help, guide them towards, oh, you're telling me you need a crafting room. Well, you say you only need a really 1-bedroom, but what about this smaller 1-bed plus den? It's in your price range. You've got this separate space for your house, whatever it may be. It's good to see variety, and it helps us help you in the long term. Next webinar.
Yes, is May 25th. It's a little bit different because instead of Helen or I, you get to meet people who live here. We will, you'll meet people who live here. We might even be showing an apartment home on that webinar. We're not sure. Of course, it depends on, we ask, and we'll see what takers we get. because everything has to line up.
Mhm.
And I know somebody asked a question about parking spaces, and while that's not really related to the waiting list, but you know, if you have one car, you're not going to have 2 reserved parking spaces. You have
Right.
2 cars, you're going to have 2 reserved parking spaces. There also is free parking for your visitors. So
If you do not bring a car, you do not get a
spot.
space.
Yeah,
There isn't a.
But there's space for your visitors.
There's tons of space.
Mhm. So
The other question was demographics.
demographic of residents, I mean, I'm not sure what they mean by that, but it's there's I mean, the ages range from actually late 50s. I did say there's exception on the age.
Yeah.
Late 50s, a majority of people are going to be in their 70s or maybe early 80s. The average age is 81. There's men and women, there are single men, there are single women, there are partnered people.
There are family members who live together.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mother,
family
daughter.
members, you know, there's different races that live here,
Yeah.
so
All kinds of.
there
different people.
are, some people have cats, some people don't. I mean, you know, so there's people that are from Washington, there's people that have come from other states, so the
Yes.
demographics are very varied. Typically, it's somebody who wants to be in the city, even though we're not in a business area, we're in a very residential. There's houses surrounding us. We're not in your typical DC or New York City high-rise neighborhood. We are, you know, a mile away from many conveniences, but it's houses surrounding us and the woods of Rock Creek Park.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great question.
Mhm.
Okay. So we hope to maybe see some of you. If you wanted a live personal tour, we can do that. We go around on Zoom.
Yep.
Not a link that's going to break, that's going to be disrupted, but we usually use our cell phone and we walk around and show you what you want to see.
Mhm.
And sometimes a resident who may not want strangers coming to see their apartment might let Helen or I in for a personal video tour.
Yeah.
But other people are amenable to either or.
Mhm.
So we know who to ask. We can do in-person tours as well. And we take COVID precautions, and for either a personal video tour or an in-person tour, call us up and we'll set up a time.
Yeah.
We do those Monday through Friday during working hours.
Yep.
And our next webinar is May 25th, and you can meet some people who live here.